Hello, I have an analogy today that I hope will give you a boost in your overall understanding of present parenting, how the brain science, mindfulness, and pyramid fit all together in one. Let's get started. As you can see on this yoga mat, I have 6 chairs that represent the pyramid stages. The looks of the chairs are intended to help remind us about the stage of development a child is in when this stage is dominant. We have a baby car seat for the attachment stage. We have a toddler chair for the following stage. I have a step stool for the accountability stage because it is a big reminder that that accountability stage is a pretty important bridge between the younger years and these older years. We have the self-discipline stage chair and the independence stage chair and the leadership stage chair. Now in front of all these chairs, I have a backpack and several weights. Now these weights represent the challenges that we often face with our children. Maybe challenges isn't the best word. Maybe the expectations that we have for them to eventually learn, but that are challenges as they try to learn them. So we have academic progress, social skills, money management, learning housekeeping skills, personal hygiene, personal care, personal health, media management. It's a bigger weight, if you can see. And another big weight is anger management. So one of the reasons I love this analogy is because weight is really how it feels when our children struggle with some of these areas. And as a parent, I think it's so common for us to want to help them quickly to learn these things, because when they don't know these things, when they don't know how to manage money as a teenager, or when they struggle with keeping things clean, or when they don't know how to share, or when they aren't making progress in things that will help them to be an adult someday, it feels like a weight. So let's talk about the backpack for a minute. What does it represent? It represents the prefrontal cortex. And the answer to the question of how are we going to carry all of this weight in life, the universal answer is the prefrontal cortex. Why? Because the prefrontal cortex is responsible for emotional regulation, executive decision making, brain balance, empathy and compassion, and overall mindfulness. And so when there's a prefrontal cortex around that's willing to carry the weight, which is why I have this backpack here, then the weight is manageable. So I'm going to put all these weights in the backpack so that we can have our brain get ready to help carry the weight in mindful ways. So while I'm doing so, I want you to think about what some of the challenges are that you have with your children that feel heavy. You know, personal hygiene. Is it hard to wrestle to brush teeth or to take a bath? Or housekeeping. Is it hard to keep things clean and get your kids to clean up? You know, it feels heavy. You know, who's going to be responsible for when people don't feel like cleaning up? Or social skills. How do we help our kids learn how to have good manners, how to have empathy for other people? And then obviously there's that whole academic side of things where we have to get them ready to take care of themselves and be self-reliant as adults someday, which includes money management. Gosh, how do we help them get ready for spending their own money someday? Big ones are media entertainment in our world today. How much time, how much content, what kind of content? This is getting pretty heavy here. This is a lot of things to think about. And this brings us to anger management, which is the ability to actually take in all of this stress and to do it in a mindful way without losing our tempers all the time. So, you know, these are heavy weights that I'm putting in here. And as I get this prefrontal cortex ready to handle all of this weight, I'm just gonna see how heavy it is. Oh boy. It's pretty heavy. So now I have all this weight in this backpack, and it's a pretty heavy backpack. And I want you to imagine what it would feel like to a young child who's trying to deal with all these issues. How would it feel like if I said that they should carry this weight, that it's their responsibility. I'm afraid I'm going to break the baby car seat, so I'm not even going to put it on there. But what about a toddler who's a little bit bigger? Is that a fair weight for a toddler? They might think that so. I know a lot of 5, 6-year-olds who would say, oh yeah, I want to try that, just because they're seeing me do it. But to be able to carry this heavy backpack, most of my kids ages 2 to 7 or 8 aren't gonna be able to hold this without collapsing. What about the accountability stage? Kids ages maybe 7 or 8 up to about 11 or 12-ish. How are they going to do with this weight? I think that my experience is that they want to carry it, that they see that it's important to carry it, but they might still struggle. They kind of need us to be pretty aware of how they're doing and be willing to help when we can or when they need it, but also willing to step back and say, hey, wow, you're doing a great job, and then be willing to kind of help when they're struggling again. So that's the accountability stage stepping stone from, whoa, I don't think this is probably a good idea for you guys to be carrying this weight, to I'm going to give you a little bit of space to test it out and see how it feels and get a little stronger, to now the teenage stage of when puberty hits, age 11-ish, up through 18, depending on the child. That self-discipline stage is when they say, hey, I'm strong enough, I can do that. And we really let them hold the weight on their own. And we talk with them, we're aware of how they're doing. We don't let our awareness go. We're still monitoring them and we're having conversations and mentoring meetings with them. But we're really letting them strengthen their own prefrontal cortex to handle this themselves. Let's move on to the independent stage. It's a little bit bigger chair, a little bit more comfortable, and this is where we as parents are actually going to let go of our awareness of some of these issues. Where these stages, we're all aware of everything that they're doing as much as possible. And up in the independent stage, we have a conversation with them and we say, hey, we have taught you all these years. You've been practicing carrying the weight. We've carried it for you. You've seen us carry it. We've let you practice a little bit. We've let you practice a lot. And now, you know what? We think you're ready so that we don't even have to pay attention to that particular issue anymore. We're going to let you independently monitor yourself and make all the decisions yourself. And that gets them ready for the leadership stage, where they have now the executive function. Their prefrontal cortex has grown from nothing down in the attachment stage all the way up to here, so that they now have the ability to help somebody else do this same stepping stone process using their leadership. So now I've taken a weight out so we can kind of talk more specifically about a specific example through the different stages. So I've got housekeeping here. Let's say you're having an issue with your kids keeping things tidy and keeping track of their stuff. So if this were me personally, if I were dealing with an attachment stage child over here, then I'm going to think to myself, they don't really have a prefrontal cortex yet, so I'm going to keep the weight on my shoulders in my backpack so that I'm just going to mostly do it for them at that stage. Following stage, they're gaining a little bit of prefrontal cortex, but it's very moment to moment. Remember I talked about momentary accountability versus true accountability. So following stage, I'm going to have lots of teaching moments. We're going to have follow the leader games. We're going to have lots of stuff where I'm kind of still carrying the weight because I'm the one who's got a prefrontal cortex more so than they do still. But I'm also going to make sure they're kind of aware. If I'm trying to teach them how to clean, I'm going to say things like, wow, look how clean this looks. I'm going to show them how it feels to clean, and I'm going to show and model what it's like to clean. The accountability stage here, an older child now, we're going to have meetings, we're going to talk, we're going to say, hey, let's agree on what we want to do for our home. Let's agree on where we should put things. Let's agree on where your backpack goes, where your shoes go. And then I'm going to take a step back and just kind of watch and see how they're doing with the things that we talked about, so that I can give their prefrontal cortex a little bit of experience with this particular weight now. So now on to the self-discipline stage. How do we handle cleanliness at that stage, where really they want to have their own space and their own decision-making power? We have found it to be actually very helpful to grant them decision-making power, especially with things that belong to them and their space. So we talk about community space and how they're part of our community. So we, in the kitchen, in the bathrooms, we need to kind of keep things, they have to, we're contributing to their community. We expect them to contribute to our community. But in their bedroom, where they have their own space, we do give them quite a bit more space to hold on to their own decision-making power. And then they get to see what it's like to have a friend over, whether the room is clean or not, or they get to see what it's like to be running from place to place with so many things. Teenagers are pretty busy. And so how do they balance all of that? They have to kind of start making those decisions, and we kind of back off and let them make those decisions. When it comes to the independent stage, we really back off, and we are much more consistent with the idea that they are their own person and we are our own person, and we might have different definitions of how things should go. And so we respect that. And sometimes they have different definitions, and we have to accept that. And then on to the leadership stage, which is, kind of as they're mature and making their own decisions anyway. So one final thought is, where's the weight? And that's the question that I ask myself in every situation that we have, in every challenge that I have with any of my children is, where's the weight? Who's feeling the weight right now, and who should feel the weight? And if I'm taking the weight and putting it on my young child's shoulders, and they don't have a prefrontal cortex yet, then guess what? The rest of their brain has to handle that weight. And it can do that, but it's going to be in a much more reactive fight, flight, or freeze type of way. If I want the weight to be handled in a prefrontal cortex way to gain maturity overall, then I'm going to carry the weight during these few stages, and then we're going to practice the weight, and then I'm going to hand the weight over to them so that they can develop those same skills. So as you're encountering any situation at your home, think to yourself, where's the weight and where should the weight be? And the answer to that question is for you to decide, because you're their parent and you love them and you want what's best for them and you want to help them develop as best they can. One more really important thing to say is that as you're trying to carry the weight, you'll find that it's really, really challenging. And so how do you do that? That's why I have the yoga mat here. That's where mindfulness comes in for you. That's where self-care comes in, is you're going to take care of yourself. You're going to work your own mind and heart, and you're going to spiritually nurture yourself so that you have the strength to not only make and discern which stage or mindset your child needs in the given moment, but also the strength to carry the weight when needed, and the strength, believe it or not, to let go when needed. So brain science, mindfulness, and the pyramid all come together in the question of, where's the weight?